Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashta Prayesho Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from chapter 38 of the 10th Canto, Akrura's arrival in Vrindavan. This chapter describes Akrura's trip from Mathura to Vrindavan, his meditation on Krishna and Balaram along the way, and the honor the two lords showed Akrura upon his arrival. Early in the morning, on the day after Kamsa had ordered him to bring Krishna and Balaram to Mathura, Akrura prepared his chariot and set off for Gokul. As he arrived, he thought as follows: I am about to attain the great good fortune of seeing Sri Krishna's lotus feet, which are worshipped by Brahma, Rudra, and other demigods. Although Kamsa is an enemy of the Supreme Lord and his devotees, still, it is by Kamsa's grace that I will get this great boon of seeing the Lord. When I first catch sight of his lotus feet, all my sinful reactions will be destroyed at once. I will descend from my chariot and fall at the feet of Krishna and Balaram. And even though I have been sent by Kamsa, the omniscient Sri Krishna will certainly harbor no animosity towards me. As Akrura thus thought to himself, he arrived in Gokula at sunset. Alighting from his chariot in the cowherd pasture, he began rolling about in the dust in great ecstasy. Then Akrura continued to Vraj. When he saw Krishna and Balaram, he fell at their lotus feet, and both the lords embraced him. After they brought him to their residence, inquired from him about the comfort of the trip, and honored him in various ways, offering him water for washing his feet, arghya, a seat, and so forth. They relieved him of his fatigue by massaging his feet, and served him a delicious banquet. Maharaj Nanda also honored Akrura with many sweet words. Shri Shukha Uvacha Akruropi Chatam Ratrim Madhupurya Mahamati Ushitva Ratham Asthaya Prayayo Nanda Gokulam. Shukadeva Goswami said, after passing the night in the city of Mathura, the high-minded Akrura mounted the chariot and set off for the cowherd village of Nanda Maharaj. King Kamsa ordered Akrura to go to Vrindavan on the Ekadashi of the dark fortnight of the Vedic month of Falgun. After spending the night in Mathura, Akrura left early the next day. That morning, Nanda offered his prayers to Krishna in Vrindavan, and in the afternoon, the demon Vyoma was killed there. At dusk, Akrura entered the Lord's village. Gachanpati Mahabhago Bhagavatyambuje Kshane Bhaktim Param Upagata Evam Etad Achintayat. As he traveled on the road, the great soul Akrura felt tremendous devotion for the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead, and thus he began to consider as follows: Kim maya charitam bhadram, kim taptam paramam tapa, kim vatha arhate dattam, yad drakshyam yadya keshavam. Sri Akrura thought, what past deeds have I done? What severe austerities undergone? What worship performed or charity given, so that today I will see Lord Keshava? Mamaitad turlabham manya uttama shloka darshanam vishayat mano yatha brahma kirtanam shudra janmana. Since I am a materialistic person absorbed simply in the sense gratification, I think it is as difficult for me to have gotten this opportunity to see Lord Uttama Shloka as it would be for one born a Shudra to be allowed to recite the Vedic mantras. Maiva mamadhamasyapi syad eva chutta darshanam riyamana mana kala nadya kvachit tarati kaschana. But enough of such thoughts. After all, even a fallen soul like me can have the chance to behold the infallible Supreme Lord. For one of the conditioned souls being swept along the river of time, I sometimes reach the shore. Mamadya mangalam nashtantam falavams chaiva me bhava yanamasye bhagavato yogi dhyayangri pankajam. Today all my sinful reactions have been eradicated, and my birth has become worthwhile, since I will offer my obeisances to the Supreme Lord's lotus feet, which mystic yogis meditate upon. Kamso batadya kritametya nugraham Drakshengri Padman Prahito Munahare Kritaavatarasya Duratyayam Tama Purve Taranyannakha Mandala Tvisha. Indeed, today King Kamsa has shown me extreme mercy by sending me to see the lotus feet of Lord Hari, who has now appeared in this world. Simply by the effulgence of his toenails, many souls in the past have transcended the insurmountable darkness of material existence and achieved liberation. Krura noted how ironic it was that the envious demoniac Kamsa had given him an extraordinary blessing by sending him to see the Supreme Lord Krishna. Yadarchitam Brahma Bhavadibhi Surayr Shriya Cha Devya Munibhisa Satvatai Gocharana Yanucharaishcharadvane Yad Gopikanam Kuchakunkumankitam. Lotus feet are worshipped by Brahma, Shiva, and all the other demigods, by the goddess of fortune, and also by the great sages and Vaishnavas. Upon those lotus feet, the Lord walks about the forest while herding the cows with his companions, and those feet are smeared with the kumkuma of the gopis' breasts. Drakshyam minunam sakapola nashikam smita valokaruna kanjalochanam mukham mukundasya gudalakavritam pradakshinam me pracharanti vaimriga. Surely I shall see the face of Lord Mukunda, since the deer are now walking past me on my right. That face, framed by his curly hair, is beautified by his attractive cheeks and nose, his smiling glances, and his reddish lotus eyes. Krura saw an auspicious omen, the passing of the deer on his right, and thus felt sure he would see the Supreme Lord Krishna. Apyadya Vishnur Manujatvam Iyusho Bharavataraya Bhuvo Nijechaya Lavanyadamno Bhavito Palam Banam Mahyam Nanasyat Phalam Anjasa Drisha. I'm going to see the Supreme Lord Vishnu, the reservoir of all beauty, who by his own sweet will has now assumed a human-like form to relieve the earth of her burden. Thus, there is no denying that my eyes will achieve the perfection of their existence. Ya ikshitaham rahitopya satta sato swate jasa pasta tamo bida brahma swamayayatman rachitaistad ikshaya pranaksha dhibhi sadaneshwabhi yate. He is the witness of material cause and effect, yet he is always free from false identification with them. By his internal potency, he dispels the darkness of separation and confusion. The individual souls in this world who are manifest here, when he glances upon his material creative energy, indirectly perceive him in the activities of their life, airs, senses, and intelligence. In this verse, Akrura establishes the all-powerful position of the Supreme Lord, whom he is about to see in Vrindavan. The false concept of separation from the Lord is described in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, 11.237. Bhayam dvitiyabhiniveshata syad ishad apetasya viparyayo smriti. Although all existence emanates from this absolute truth, Krishna, we imagine a second thing, this material world, to be entirely separate from the Lord's existence. With this mentality, we try to exploit the second thing for our sense gratification. Thus, the psychological underpinning of material life is the illusion that this world is somehow separate from God, therefore meant for our enjoyment. It is ironic that the impersonal philosophers, in their radical renunciation of this world, claim to be utterly false and totally separate from the Absolute. Unfortunately, this artificial attempt to divest this world of its divine nature, or in other words, its relation to God, does not lead people to utterly reject it, but rather to try to enjoy it. While it is true that this world is temporary and thus, in one sense, illusory, the mechanism of illusion is the spiritual potency of the Supreme Lord. Realizing this, we should immediately desist from any attempt to exploit this world. Rather, we should recognize it as God's energy. We will actually give up our material desires only when we understand that this world belongs to God and is therefore not meant for our selfish gratification. The word abhiyate here refers to a process of surmising the presence of the Lord through meditative introspection. This process is also described in the second canto of the Bhagavatam 2.2.35. Bhagavan sarva bhuteshu lakshita swat mana hari drishyair buddhi adi bhir drashta lakshanair anumapakai. The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, is in every being along with the individual soul, and this fact is perceived and hypothesized in our acts of seeing and taking help from the intelligence. Akrura states that the Lord is free from egotistic pride, afflicting ordinary embodied souls. Yet the Lord appears to be embodied like everyone else, and therefore someone might object the statement that he is free of egoism. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti comments on this puzzle as follows: how can we distinguish between free of false ego and being afflicted by it? If a living entity is situated in a body, argues the objector, he will encounter the unhappiness and confusion that occur within it, just as a person living in a house, whether he be attached to it or not, cannot avoid experiencing the darkness, warmth, and cold that occur within it. This objection is answered as follows: by his internal potency, the Lord dispels the darkness of ignorance, along with the separateness and bewilderment it produces. यस्याखिलामिव हभि सुमङ्गलय वाचो विमिश्रगुणकर्मजन्मभिः प्राणन्ति शुम्भन्ति पुनन्ति वै जगत् यास्तद्विरक्ता शवशोभनामता. All the sins it destroys and all good fortune created by the Supreme Lord's qualities, activities, and appearances and words that describe these three things animate, beautify, and purify the world. On the other hand, words bereft of his glories are like the decorations on a corpse. Sri Sridhar Swami brings up the following possible objection: how can one who is devoid of ordinary ego, who is fully self-satisfied, engage in pastimes? The answer is given here. Lord Krishna acts on the pure spiritual platform for the pleasure of his loving devotees, not for any kind of mundane gratification. Sachavatirna kila Tvatan vaye swasetu palamaravarya sharmakrit yasho vitanman vraja asta ishvaro gayanti deva yadeshesha mangalam. That same Supreme Lord has ascended into the dynasty of the Sattvatas to delight the exalted demigods who maintain the principles of religion. He has created. Residing in Vrindavan, he spreads his fame, which the demigods glorify, in song in which brings his auspiciousness to all. Tam tvadya nunam mahatam gatim gurum trailokya kantam drishiman mahotsavam rupam dadhanam shriya ipsitaspadam rakshe mamasan usasa sudarshana. Today I shall certainly see him, the goal and spiritual master of the great souls. Seeing him brings jubilation to all who have eyes, for he's the true beauty of the universe. Indeed, his personal form is a shelter desired by the goddess of fortune. Now all the dawns of my life have become auspicious. Athavaruddha sapadish shayorathat pradhana pumsos charanam swalabdhadye diyadhritam yogi birapyaham dhruvam Namasyabhyam Sasakhin Vanokasa. Then I will at once alight from my chariot and bow down to the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram, the supreme personalities of Godhead. Theirs are the same feet the great mystic yogis striving for self-realization bear within their minds. I will also offer my obeisances to the Lord's cowherd boyfriends and to all the other residents of Vrindavan. Pyangrimule patitasya me vibho shirasya dhasya nijahasta pankajam dattabhayam kala bhujangaram hasa prodvejitanam sharanaisinam nrinam. And when I have fallen at his feet, the Almighty Lord will place his lotus hand upon my head for those who seek shelter in him, because they are greatly disturbed by the powerful serpent of time, and that the hand removes all fear. Samarhanam yatra nidhaya kaushikas tatha balischapa jagatrayetratam Yadva vihare vrajayoshitam shramam sparshena saugandhika gandhya panudat. By offering charity to the lotus hand, Purandara and Bali earned the status of Indra, king of heaven. And during the pleasure pastimes of the Rasa dance, when the Lord whipped away the gopis' perspiration and removed their fatigue, the touch of their faces made the hand as fragrant as sweet flower. The Puranas call the Lord found in the Manasa Sarovar lake a Saugandhika. Lord Krishna's lotus hand acquired the fragrance of the flower coming in contact with the beautiful faces of the gopis. This specific incident, which occurred during the Rasa Leela, is described in the third chapter of the 10th canto. Namayupaishyatari buddhim chitta kamasasya duta prahitopi vishwadrik yontar bahishchetasa etad ihitam kshetragnya ikshyamalena chokshusa. The infallible Lord will not consider me an enemy, even though Kamsa had sent me here as his messenger. After all, the omniscient Lord is the actual knower of the field of this material body, and with his perfect vision, he witnesses both externally and internally all the endeavors of the conditioned soul's heart. Being omniscient, Lord Krishna knew that Krura was only externally a friend of Kamsa. Internally, he was an eternal devotee of Lord Krishna. Apyangrimule vahitam kritanjalim mam ikshita sasmita ardrayadrisha sapadyapad dhvasta samasta kilbisho vodha mudam vitavi shanka urjitam. Thus he will cast his smiling, affectionate glance upon me as I remain fixed with joined palms, fallen in obeisances at his feet. Then all my contamination will at once be dispelled, and I will give up all doubts and feel the most intense bliss. Suhritam mam jnatim ananya daivatam dorbhyam brihadbhyam paripsyate tamam atma hi tirthi kriyate tadaiva me bandhascha karmatma uchvasityata. Recognizing me as the intimate friend and relative, Krishna will embrace me with his almighty arms, instantly sanctifying my body and diminishing to nil all my material bondage, which is due to fruitive activities. Labvanga sangam pranatam kritanjalim mam vakshate krura tatetyurushrava tadavayam janma bhrito mahiyasa naivadrito yodrigamushya janmatat. Having been embraced by the all-famous Lord Krishna, I will humbly stand before him with bowed head and joined palms, and he will address me, my dear Krura. At that very moment, my life's purpose will be fulfilled. Indeed, the life of anyone whom the Supreme Personality fails to recognize is simply pitiable. Natasya kasya daitashu hrittamo nacha priyo dveshya upeksha evava. Tathapi bhaktam bhajate yata tatha suradrumo yadvad upashritorthada. Supreme Lord has no favorite and no dearmost friend, nor does he consider anyone undesirable, despicable, or fit to be neglected. All the same, he lovingly reciprocates with his devotees in whatever manner they worship him, just as the trees of heaven fulfill the desires of whoever approaches them. The Lord says something similar to in the Bhagavad Gita. Samoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshyosti na priya ye bhajantya tumam bhaktya mahi teshu teteshu chapyaham. I envy no one, nor I am partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend and is in me, and I am also a friend to him. Similarly, Lord Chaitanya was as hard as thunderbolt for those who envied him, and as soft as a rose for those who understood his divine mission. Kim chagrajo man vanatam yaduttama smayan parishvajya grihitam anjalo graham pravishyapta samasta sakritam samprakshyate kamsa kritam svabandhushu. And then Lord Krishna's elder brother, the foremost of all Yadus, will grasp my joined hand while I am still standing with my head bowed, and after embracing me, he will take me to his house. There he will honor me with all items of ritual welcome, and inquire from me about how Kamsa has been treating his family members. Shri Shukha Uvacha Iti Sanchintayan Krishnam Safalka Tanayodhvani Rathena Gokulam Prapta Suryaschasta Girim Nripa. Shukadeva Goswami continued, my dear king, while the son of Swafalka, traveling on the road, thus meditated deeply on Sri Krishna, he reached Gokula as the sun was beginning to set. Srila Sridhar Swami comments that although Krura did not even notice the road, being deeply absorbed in meditation on Lord Krishna, he still reached Gokula on his chariot. Padani tasya khila lokapala kirita justa malapadareno tadarshak goshte kshiti kautukani vilakshitanyabja yavan kusadyaye. In the covered pasture, Akrura saw the footprints of those feet whose pure dust the rulers of all the planets in the universe hold on their crowns. Those footprints of the Lord, distinguished by such marks as the lotus, barley corn, and elephant goad, made the ground wonderfully beautiful. Tadarshanaad nahlada vivriddha sambrama premnordvaroma shrukala kulekshana rathad avaskandya sasteshvachet satchestata prabhoramunyangri rajamsya ho iti. Increasingly agitated by the ecstasy at seeing the Lord's footprints, his bodily hairs standing on end because of his pure love, and his eyes filled with tears, Akrura jumped down from his chariot and began rolling about among those feet, exclaiming, "Ah, this is the dust from my master's feet. Deham britam iyanartho hitvadambham biya sucham sandeshadyo harirni ga darshana sar shravanadibhi." The very goal of life for all embodied beings is this ecstasy which Akrura experienced when, upon receiving Kamsa's order, he put aside all pride, fear, and lamentation and absorbed himself in seeing, hearing, and describing the things that reminded him of Lord Krishna. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti explains that Akrura gave up fear by openly showing his love and reverence for Krishna, even though he or his family might have been punished by the angry Kamsa. Akrura gave up his pride and in being an aristocratic member of society and worshipped the coward residents of the simple village of Vrindavan. He gave up lamenting for his wife and family, which were in danger from King Kamsa. Giving up all these things, he rolled in the dust of the lotus feet of the god. Tadarsha Krishnam Ramam cha Vraje Godohanam Gato Pita Nilam Baradharo Sharad Amburu Hekshano Shiro Shyamala Shveto Sriniketo Brihadbhujo Samukho Sundaro Varo Baladvi Radha Vikramo Dvajas Vajra Kusham Bhojais Chintair Angribhir Rajam Shobhayanto Mahatmano Sanukrosha Smite Kshano Udara Ruchira Krido Shragvino Vanamalino Punyagandhanu Liptango Snato Virajavasaso Pradhana Purusha Vadyo Jagade Tu Jagatpati Avatirno Jagatarte Swamsena Balakeshavo Disho Viti Mira Rajan Kurvano Prabhaya Svaya Yata Mara Kata Shailo Ropyas Cha Kanaka Chito. Akrura then saw Krishna and Balaram in the village of Vraja going to milk the cows. Krishna wore yellow garments, Balaram blue, and their eyes resembled autumnal lotuses. One of those two mighty armed youths, the shelter of the goddess of fortune, had a dark blue complexion, and the other's was white. With their fine-featured faces, they were the most beautiful of all persons, as they walked with the gait of young elephants, glancing about with compassionate smiles. Those two exalted personalities beautified the cow pasture with the impressions of their feet, which bore the marks of the flag, lightning bolt, elephant goad, and lotus. The two lords, whose pastimes are most magnanimous and attractive, were ornamented with jeweled necklaces and flower garlands anointed with auspicious fragrant substances, freshly bathed and dressed in spotless raiment. They were the primeval supreme personalities, the master and original cause of the universe, who had, for the welfare of earth, now descended in their distinct forms of Keshava and Balaram. O King Parikshit, they resembled two gold-bedecked mountains, one of emerald and the other of silver, as, with their effulgence, they dispelled the sky's darkness in all directions. Rathaturnam avaplutya sokrura Sneha Vihvala Papata Charanot Pante Dandavad Ramakrishnayo. Akrura, overwhelmed with affection, quickly jumped down from his chariot and fell at the feet of Krishna and Balaram like a rod. Bhagavad Darshana Lada Bashva Pariya Kulekshana Pulaka Chitanga Outkantyat Swakyane Nashaka Nripa. The joy of seeing the Supreme Lord flooded Akrura's eyes with tears and decorated his limbs with eruptions of ecstasy. He felt such eagerness that he could not speak to present himself, O king. Bhagavam stam abhipritya rathang gankita panina parirebhebhya pa krishya prita pranata vatsala. Recognizing Akrura, Lord Krishna drew him close with his hand, which bears the sign of the chariot wheel, and then embraced him. Krishna felt pleased, for he is always benignly disposed towards his surrendered devotees. According to the acharyas, by extending his hand marked with the chariot wheel or chakra, Lord Krishna indicated his ability to kill Kamsa. Sankarshana cha pranatam upaguhya mahamana grihitva panina pani anayat sanujo graham prishtvatha swaga agatam tasmai nivedya cha varasanam parikshalya vidhivat pado madhu parkarhanam aharat. As Akrura stood with his head bowed, Lord Sankarshan, Balaram, grasped his joined hands, and then Balaram took him to his house in the company of Lord Krishna. After inquiring from Akrura whether his trip had been comfortable, Balaram offered him a first-class seat, bathed his feet in accordance with the injunctions of scripture, and respectfully served him milk with honey. Nivedya gam chatithaye samvahya shrantam adrita annam bahu gunam medyam shraddhayotpaharad vibhu. The Almighty Lord Balaram presented Akrura with the gift of a cow, massaged his feet to relieve him of fatigue, and then, with great respect and faith, fed him suitably prepared food of various fine tastes. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, Akrura went to Krishna's and Balaram's house on the 12th lunar day, on which one should not break a fast at night. However, Akrura dispensed with this formality because he was eager to receive food in the Lord's house. Tasmai bhuktavate pritya rama parama dharmavid mukha vasair gandha malyai param pritim vyadhat puna. When Akrura had eaten to his satisfaction, Lord Balram, the supreme knower of religious duties, offered him aromatic herbs for sweetening his mouth, along with fragrances and flower garlands. Thus Akrura once again enjoyed the highest pleasure. Prapacha satkritam nanda katamsta nira nugrahe kamshe jivati da sharha saunapala ivavaya. Nanda Maharaj asked Akrura, a descendant of Dasarha, who are all how are all of you maintaining yourselves while merciless Kamsa remains alive? You are just like sheep under the care of a butcher. Yovadhit swasustokan kroshantya ashutrip kala kimnu svitat prajanam va kusalam vimrisham samahe. That cruel, self-serving Kamsa murdered the infants of his own sister in her presence, even as she cried in anguish. So why should we even ask about this well-being of you, his subjects? Itam sunritaya vacha nandena subhajita akrura pariprashtena jahav vadva parishramam. Honored by Nanda Maharaj with these true and pleasing words of inquiry, Akrura forgot the fatigue of his journey. Thus end the purpose of his humble servants of his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, in the 10th Canto, 38th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Akrura's Arrival in Vrindavan. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol.